Personal background, I'm also a graduate of IIT Delhi, and I went to the United States about 40 years ago and worked for several legacy companies, and then later on got into professional services, IT services, and work very closely with Indian outfits. And I strongly believe that we are ready to take the outsourcing and the offshoring model to the next level and move from professional services into products and innovative solutions, both to the world problems and, more importantly, to the domestic Indian problems in the field of healthcare, sanitation, energy, clean energy particularly in India. And there's no dearth of talent. And after all, we have it in our DNA. About 2 millennia ago, we used to produce world-class mathematicians and astronomers like Bhaskar and Aryabhatta and so forth. In the field of medicine, we had Charak and Sushrup. And in the field of yoga, the Patanjali is probably not very well known, but its impact is felt all over the world today in terms of yoga, and those kinds of contributions can be made all over again using the talent that we have today. What we need from the government is, as my colleagues have mentioned, to create the right atmosphere, the training, mentoring, incubators, accelerators, and flow of capital. Those are the basic ingredients, of course. And one caution I think I would like to humbly submit is that the government should not directly invest in the startups. It should be a facilitator. It should not be in the business of picking winners and losers. It should leave it to the private enterprise to take that risk and fail if necessary. And more often than not, we will fail. And that's the nature of entrepreneurship. And the government can also be in the area of basic research, but not applied research or product development and the startups themselves. And hopefully we will hear a lot of things tomorrow from the Honorable Prime Minister and his staff about the regulatory changes, the policy changes that could facilitate entrepreneurship in India. And with that, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Thakur. Mr. Manu Rekhi.
Hi. Well, thank you for the podium to present ourselves. I don't know what I can add that some of my mentors here haven't already expressed. So without further ado, I wanted to actually show a video that a bunch of us in this room actually prepared. Hopefully that sticks.
The answer is by building an innovation bridge to the global economy. India's population is exploding. Within 10 years, India will surpass China as the most populated country in the world. India needs to create over 2 million new jobs every month to keep up with the booming population. And because of rapidly changing technologies, these new jobs can only be created by new companies, started by a new generation of entrepreneurs. These entrepreneurs have the potential to create as many as 100 million jobs over the next 10 years. By creating 25 million jobs in startups, an additional 75 million service jobs will be created automatically. So if India needs job growth and entrepreneurs can create jobs, where is the problem? Startups need risk capital. India's government already allocates capital for startups, but true risk capital brought in by experienced investors can be far more powerful and smarter. Currently, there is no easy way for this smart money to come directly to India due to red tape and complex taxes. This means this money is going to other countries with more reasonable policies, and India's best and brightest are leaving the country to access it. If India wants to innovate and create jobs at home, it needs to roll out the red carpet instead of the red tape for risk capital to flow freely into the country. Let's look at the US, for example. 70% of all jobs in the U.S. are at startups formed since 1980, driven in large part by the tech boom in Silicon Valley. The U.S. government supports policies that allow for easy access to risk capital which has led to the creation of millions of jobs. And in the last 10 years, 30% of all startups in the US are founded or co-founded by Indians. Why do Indians have to leave the country to create these startups and jobs? How to create jobs at home by building the innovation bridge. During the dot-com boom of the 1990s, entrepreneurs and government officials began working together to construct a bridge to overseas investors. This makeshift wooden bridge through Mauritius and Singapore is what's fueling the startup revolution in India today, leading to successful companies like Flipkart, Snapdeal, and Redbus. But the current wooden bridge makes doing business in India unnecessarily difficult and drastically limits India's true growth potential. To ensure that economic and job growth continues, the Indian government must now turn this wooden bridge into a steel one by taking the following steps. First, India needs to become an easier place to do business. This means getting rid of the red tape, adopting best practices, and creating reliable policies. Secondly, India's government needs to help simplify taxes by getting rid of ambiguity and updating tax codes. For example, a zero capital gains tax may be the best policy in the short run. Lastly, the Indian government should help improve efficiency of a business's life cycle by simplifying company creation, accelerating exits and liquidities, and streamlining bankruptcies. By building the innovation bridge, India has the potential to create as many as 100 million jobs over the next 10 years alone. This US tech boom has created goods and services for the first billion people in the world. With the innovation bridge, India has the potential to create the next Google, Facebook, or Apple that will provide goods and services for the next...
Yeah, and 3 of them are in India. And I am working with Andhra Pradesh state government very closely to work on some of these data center companies and Internet of Things. And the problems what we are facing is incentives to the entrepreneurship and also incentives to the innovation. Most of the companies are started in India, mostly on the services sector. So it would be a great opportunity. It will really help us if we can help to get some incentives to the entrepreneurs and also to the incentives to the people who wanted to invent things. So that's my request.
Thank you. With this, we come to the end of observations by the participants. May I now request the Honorable President for his address.
Good evening. Srimati Amitabh Pal, Secretary to President. Sri Amitabh Kant, Secretary, Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion. Venkatesh Shukla, President, TAI. Distinguished guests from Silicon Valley, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome all of you to this Rashtrapati Bhavan, which in one way, for the last part of the British rule in this country, British rule was quite long, for 190 years. But in the later part, say between the First World War and the Second World War, end of Second World War, this building was the key player in transforming India, not only having political independence after 190 years, but also opening the new phases of development. I would like to share some figures in statistical terms with you. When the East India Company was given the permission to start its business, East India Company of England, of course, during the heydays of the Mughal Empire, India contributed 22.5% of the world GDP. After taking over the rule of this country, first 100 years was with the East India Company, controlled by different regulating act. After 100 years, it was taken over by the British Crown, and by one stroke in 1870 it came down, India's contribution to world GDP by almost 10%, that is 12.3%. And when in this house we transformed into a republic 65 years ago, our share in the world GDP was participated, have made your own contribution, not in theory or textbook, but from your practical experiences and life, which is not very long. All of you are almost half of my age, if I be permitted to say so. But you have contributed by sheer perseverance and application of your talent. What you could do outside, why we can't do inside? The biggest difference which we find, one of you have made in your observations, that too much paperwork. Creating the appropriate ambience in every walk of life, from startup to transformation of India into new technology, new generation of technology. What we require is to create an ambience, an atmosphere where we provide the full opportunities to the young aspirant India who does not want any government support. They are no longer seeking the job, but their aspiration is to create job for others. So transform them from job seekers to job creators, in simple word, is the objective. I'll just give you one example to you. In the last 3 years, by virtue of my office, I am the technical head of 114 central institutions, including 45 central universities, 16 IITs, many of you are IT graduates, and particularly Kharagpur, Delhi, Kanpur, etc., Madras, 30 NITs, and scores of others, including the Bangalore Institute of Science and Research. What I found, that placement of the IITs are excellent, particularly the old IITs. But when the international rating agencies year after year are drawing up list of 200 top world-class universities, not a single Indian university find its place. I refuse to believe that there is no talent. I refuse to believe that Indian institution standards are not equivalent to that. Because in very recent period we have produced 4 graduates who obtained Nobel Prize when they worked outside. Starting from Professor Amartya Sen to Chandrasekhar to Hargobind Khurana, all of them are the products of the Indian universities, graduates. That means talents are there in the students, in the teachers, but we are not able to provide the ambience where they could utilize this talent where they got the opportunity when they worked outside. And I am happy to inform, to cut the long story short, that almost like parrot, when I repeated in every educational congregation, I am happy that I received dividend 2015, 2 of the Indian institutes, including Delhi IIT, and of course IISERs, they have found their place in 200 top, and Bombay IIT missed it by 4 points. And I am pretty sure next 2 to 3 years, many of them would come out without any addition, either in the infrastructure or in the, but taking care of responding where we are lacking. In taking care and updating ourselves to the requirement of others. And one of the deficient points I found out, that the cross-fertilization of intellectual minds are not taking place in the academic areas. I am just limiting myself to the area where I am trying to improve. I am not asking government to spend more money or to provide additional support, which they are doing normally, let them do it. But how to utilize the existing talents, existing resources to its optimal capacity. Therefore, you have correctly pointed out that innovation, research, development, upgradation of technology, application of technology would be the next generation of this strength. Superpower. What is meant by superpower? USA's population is much less than ours. But superpower means super technology. Access to super technology, ability to develop the technology and improve it, bring new generation of technology. Technology is always have a propensity to be obsolete very fast. Therefore, what is needed is to always update it, which you are doing. That's why I am delighted to have the opportunity of meeting you. Tomorrow, of course, you will have detailed interactions with the Prime Minister who has taken it up. With 4,000 startups, almost every day, 3 to 4 new startup companies are coming here. That means people are taking up the challenges and they do not carry any baggage. Baggage of the past. Some of you have very correctly pointed out that they feel confidence, they want to do either the old legacy. So far the policies are concerned, it is the job of the government to always create the appropriate policy environment to encourage the entrepreneurs. We have taken too long. But nonetheless, we have taken that decision. We have woke up. And I cannot pass on the buck to anybody. I will have to take the buck to myself because I was in administration too long. The amount of investment we have made for hospitalizing the sick industries over a longer period of time, which only made investment in inefficiency and perpetuating in inefficiency. Death and decay is the natural process. If it is applicable to individual life, it is applicable to society, it is applicable to the system. So what is to die, let them die peacefully. Yes, challenges are there. Out of 100, perhaps somebody has mentioned this figure. Out of 100 new enterprises, 30 are bound to succeed. 60 are bound to die. 10 may be in the area of grey area, which may succeed, which may not succeed. So I agree with you. I would not like to stand between you because it is a long day for you also. And I would have been happy if I could provide you a meal so that I could have continued. Actually, you are providing. Good, very good.
Come, you are welcome to come and join us.
No, but I am happy that you are not keeping them hungry. I am very happy. I am looking forward. Because in our system, President is not the executive head. President is merely constitutional head. Prime Minister is the executive head. So he will have discussion. Amitabh will also lead the discussion. I appreciate his role. And two of the secretaries, my secretary and Amitabh, they have taken the initiative to have this opportunity. And I am glad that I have met in this evening. I had the privilege of welcoming you to this Rashtrapati Bhavan, all having brilliant minds, and they themselves are the symbol of the success, struggle, sufferings, and at the end, establishing your talents. I appreciate it. I thank you. I also thank you, Mr. Shukla, for leading this important delegation to India. I welcome you. Have your comfortable stay. And a bit advance, I convey my best Republican Day greetings, which we are going to have on 26th, and very happy, prosperous, at the same time challenging, because all of you will have to face challenge every day, every year, so that you can solve. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. I now invite Mr. Ram Reddy, founder, Global Industry Analyst, to propose a vote of thanks.
Most honored President Shri Pranab Mukherjee, respected Secretaries Srimati Amita Paul and Shri Amitabh Kant, my colleagues from Thai Silicon Valley, led by Mr. Venk Shukla, our founding members of Thai, Mr. Kanwal Rekhi and Mr. Sahas Patil, ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute honor and a distinct pleasure, and have gained respect as a community in virtually every aspect of American society. Thai Silicon Valley has played a pioneering role in the tech revolution that happened over the past 2 decades, and have contributed significantly to India's recognition globally, headquartered from Thai Silicon Valley, where all the investments are happening, most of them. As you may have heard the term, the new economy, upwards of 70% of America's new job creation and economic growth can be attributed to its leadership in technology. We are living in the most transformational time in history, with an opportunity for India to play center stage in this so-called new economy. Silicon Valley has long been recognized as the epicenter for innovation and entrepreneurship. There are many learnings from Silicon Valley where the Indian diaspora has played a significant role. Some of us are here represented in this audience. Our presence in almost every venture capital firm, tech startup, and every major tech enterprise today stands testimony to this claim. The Silicon Valley, Thai Silicon Valley, is an important part of this elite community. Today's delegation, sir, only represents about 10% of the 337 charter members, most of who are Valley icons or tech icons in their own making. More than 30,000 tech entrepreneurs, professionals, influencers are represented in the Silicon Valley, and Thai has played a pivotal role in this positioning. The Prime Minister's historic recent visit to the Silicon Valley has awakened many of us in the US. It paved the way for a new, unprecedented level of awareness and respect for India and the Indian diaspora. Thai Silicon Valley will continue to engage with the Indian government and look forward to working with India, with its technological think tanks and ecosystem drivers such as FICCI, NASSCOM, CII, and others, in formulating policies, strategic partnering, and fostering global entrepreneurship globally. I would like to conclude by once more thanking our Honorable President Shri Pranab Mukherjee for giving us this opportunity, and Ms. Amita Paul for expending time and energy in organizing this great event. Jai Hind.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your participation. The Honorable President will now go around the table. I request you to stand up. He will like to shake hands with all of you before he departs.